You are gonna die! I guarantee it! I am gonna kill you!
Gotta crack open a cold one for the boys.
In this world, there are good guys and there are bad guys. And I will not be bullied into submission.
You're reading the man's part.
Oh, God.
What did you think about rewatching season 1?
Rewatching it for like the 4th, 5th time.
I mean, anything to get the taste of Game of Thrones out of my mouth. Oh! 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 There goes the Night King.
Like, of course, I love the main characters. I love Ruth. I love Sam Sylvia. And I also like the characters who are just kind of like supporting characters. I always see something new, or I get something different, like a different perspective from those other characters than what I had before.
Yeah, I know this was written by one of the co-writers or the co-creators of Orange is the New Black. I haven't really seen Orange is the New Black, but I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Yeah, they're very good at having a show with different characters with different backgrounds and stuff.
It's not afraid to be full of stereotypes, which is a little strange for today's world. I mean, based off its source material.
Don't yourself down. You're about to see the best show in town.
If you're the kind of person that gets offended by this stuff, you probably don't want to watch Glow.
Well, are you talking about stereotypes like the characters personally or the wrestling persona?
The personas.
Okay.
And I mean, even just like quotes and things that happen.
Now let's add a little fun back in.
Oh.
Yeah. Now that is a fucking miscarriage.
Some things are a bit harsh, I will say, from Sam.
Yeah, and they're not afraid of doing it, which I think is refreshing and fun.
You know what? Let's add the gun back in.
One thing I really appreciate about the show is that it stays true to wrestling. We all know wrestling isn't real, but back then in the 80s and 90s, that shit was the realest thing.
It's still real to me, damn it!
I also appreciate how someone mentions to Debbie, who wanted to learn about wrestling, that it's not, you don't have to be best friends or like on good terms with somebody outside of the ring in order to make something work inside of the ring. And that's basically like, you know, one of the biggest things with wrestling is that if you're able to just sell, if you're able to have a good chemistry with that person in the ring, then like you'll put on an awesome performance.
Right. The conflict between our two main characters feels like the Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels rivalry in terms of how they built off of each other's hatred.
Was this like actual hatred outside of the ring?
Yeah, it was behind the scenes like hatred between these two people, but from that hatred, they ended up making a very compelling storyline for the viewers to watch. And it was very interesting. And I see connections between that and this show. They even have a scene where they go to an actual wrestling match. It is like a reenactment of Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth.
Did they do the, oh, she's brainwashed thing too?
They did something like that, where the woman's brainwashed and he keeps on trying to win her back and stuff like that. I noticed a lot of things like that in this show that are referencing a lot of real life wrestling situations. And I really appreciate it as somebody who keeps up with wrestling. I don't like watch it all the time.
They also got Chavo Guerrero Jr. to help out with the stunts and stuff.
Yeah, you can see in the background of a lot of shots, it's Chavo Guerrero's, his gym. Yeah. The first episode has John Morrison, and he's awful.
He's a legend in the ring, but he's also literally gigantic. And the brothers too.
He's just awful. You see Brodus Clay, and you see Carlito, which I love seeing Carlito, it's been a while. And you see Chavo Guerrero himself later on.
The stunts are, the moves and everything, I don't know, like, it's kind of hard for me to see which one's a stunt double, which one isn't, but when I'm able to see their face and I see them performing certain moves. It's really well executed.
You can definitely tell that they were trained by somebody who has some background. And it's funny to watch the actresses do wrestling, and then you see like Carlito and Brodus Clay do wrestling, and it's all like intense.
How about a drop kick? How about something with a jump, like this? Something like that, baby?
It's amazing to see. It's like, wow, they're actually really good at it.
They just like started. He just like kicked him in the gut, and you know the other guys sold it, and they just like continue.
Lovable cast of characters. Each one has something to appreciate about them.
And you get introduced to like what kind of person these characters are, like right from the jump during the audition thing, and you see what kind of person Ruth is. You see what kind of person Machu Picchu is. You see the British girl, with the blinds.
You got Fortune Cookie, played by Knives Chow.
You broke the heart that broke mine. Get ready to chow.
And she's still Knives Chow.
She's still Knives Chow. She's the same character.
She's adorable. I can't help but to like think she's super adorable. Yeah. I don't care if she's still Knives Chow.
Really, don't make a fuss. Oh, we're going to make a fuss, majorly. I promise I will do everything I can to get out of this group and come.
I have to pee.
It's very interesting that they're able to make these characters as compelling as they are in just under 30 minutes.
It gets straight to the point. I really appreciate that. A lot of shows take a very long time to establish just a few characters. For instance, Titans. And
you don't want to get me started on Titans.
You already know from the jump like about like more than half of the people who are wrestling. You already know who they are.
And that's what a pilot is supposed to do.
Yeah.
Successfully. But yeah, usually you've got a good TV show that's able to have these characters from the first episode, and you're able to grab onto something. Grab onto something that makes these characters interesting or makes you want to keep watching, and then you got a giant failure like Titans. You like Ruth a lot?
Oh, I love Ruth. So Ruth is basically the small hometown girl. She came from Omaha, Nebraska, all the way to LA to try and chase this dream of being an actress. And she, from time to time, she's always having doors slammed in her face.
Tin Roof Neil! Why the fuck are you sleeping? I paid for this scene study class. This is the only place I get to do what I want to do. I don't have anywhere else to go.
She wants parts, but she doesn't want just some part where she says, hi, you have someone waiting online too for you. Like, she wants real parts. And I love how in the beginning, we're introduced to who Ruth is and what she's about, because she purposely says the man's part, which is long and emotional and powerful. And immediately the people who are recording her are telling her that that's not what you're supposed to say.
Which is a statement on
women in the industry.
In the industry.
Yeah.
In the 80s and all that stuff, which was great.
You read the man's part on purpose, didn't you?
It's the better part.
No shit. That's why we gave it to Steve Guttenberg.
It is appropriate for this show. It's very appropriate for the source material. It's very appropriate for the tone. And Ruth is basically a mirror personality to Katharine Hepburn. Above her bed, she has a picture of Katharine Hepburn. She's a lovable, self-willed tomboy.
Aren't we elegant? Well, you'll never be thought so with your slang and manners. I hope not. I don't want to be elegant. Well, you needn't whistle like a boy. That's why I do it. Right, it's just rude, unladylike girl. And I hate affected niminy-piminy chicks.
In a way, she's kind of the failure version of Katharine Hepburn. Because, you know, Katharine Hepburn, she could deny a bunch of movies because she thought they were dumb.
Wow.
Yeah, she was pretty good. But you got Ruth doing a wrestling show.
She takes on this odd job because there's nothing else really out there for her.
She needs anything.
She needs anything.
Ruth she comes off as, she's kind of...
I don't care if those banana farmers starve to death. I'm a businesswoman, for Christ's sake, not a fruit philanthropist.
Your milquetoast character, like...
She's boring in the face.
Right. She's kind of like the Gohan of Glow.
Gohan, like after he's gotten older and he started going to school, right?
They fucked up Gohan pretty bad. My favorite character is Sam.
Maybe, or because I don't like your face or your ass. I don't know. Maybe I like both of them too much. I don't have to explain myself. That's the beauty of being a director.
He's such an asshole, and I love him. The first time you see him, he says, I said I'd do anything, so here the fuck we are.
Okay. I said I'd do anything, so here we fucking are.
Explains his character.
Yeah.
The first sentence he ever says in the entire show, you already know so much about him. You know he's a scumbag. You know he's, you know where he is in his career.
Yeah.
You know what he thinks of the show that he's about to do.
And even when he was doing the cutouts or the cutoffs or whatever, and he's like looking at everyone's face, there was a woman who he said, "Oh, you remind me of my ex. Thank you, bye."
Okay, number 18. You remind me of my ex-wife. Thanks.
Obviously, he must have had a really bad past with an ex.
Yeah. They walk up to him in line, they introduce themselves. And he says to Ruth, like, "What are you, a real actor?" And he doesn't call her an actress, which kind of is a statement on how he feels about women in general.
So what are you, like a real actor?
So he comes off as this big asshole, but over time you start to love him. He's a lovable asshole. He's got a lot of tough love.
He's very dedicated to his art. He goes out of his way to pull Debbie Egan from her home in Pasadena to come and at least give this wrestling thing a try. Even though he knew that she probably wouldn't want to do it because Ruth was there. But he's like, it's not about the lie, it's where the lie takes you.
What do you think about this character, Belle? Liberty Belle.
Liberty Belle.
What's her real name? Debbie Egan?
Debbie Egan.
Okay, yeah. What do you think about Debbie Egan?
Well, before we even get into that, we have to talk about why things are the way they are. Ruth and Debbie Egan, they're supposed to be best friends, and we're kind of introduced to them together, and this is their first time meeting each other out of a long time. She says, "I haven't seen you around anymore,"
and Debbie makes a point in the locker room saying, getting pregnant and marrying someone is
the best thing in my life.
Best decision I've ever made.
Yeah.
And obviously Ruth isn't that kind of person. She wants to work.
Debbie is this person who's kind of like above her. You know, she already lived this life that Ruth has yet to accomplish. So in a way, like, we can already see that Ruth she's struggling versus like Debbie, who already accomplished that. So it's easy for her to say, I settled down and I have this family and it was the best thing in my life. And it's kind of like, it's like a slap in the face to like tell her that she needs to find a man and have a family in order to be happy.
Your life needs to be dependent on this man.
Yeah.
Yeah, which bites her in the butt later in the episode.
Yeah.
And it bites her in the butt throughout both seasons.
So some time goes by and Ruth is in her home and this guy comes crashing into her window and he turns out to be Debbie's husband.
Right. At the time, you don't know that it's Debbie's husband, but you learn about it later. And all that sets up a very, very smart ending, just like real wrestling. What we mentioned before, how you stay true to your source material, it's a personal, legitimate issue that two wrestlers have, and they put it out on camera and they put it in the ring. Ruth is in the arena doing her stick, doing her bit. Debbie walks in, super pissed off.
Oh. You fucking bitch! Oh, you fucking cunt! I should fucking kill you!
Debbie, what are you doing?
Don't play dumb, homewrecker! husband fucker!
She has a baby with her, and it looks like it's ripped straight from a wrestling thing in the 80s.
Yeah, it looks real as fuck. She just comes storming in with the baby on her arm, and she's like, "Oh, you little cunt, you slut."
Yeah, she looks like she's about to explode.
Yeah.
You want me to take them for you?
Yes, thank you.
Sam is up there watching them, and he pictures this amazing wrestling show that he wants to create.
He sees this vision.
He has a vision. Like we said before, that's smart writing for a show that's about wrestling. You start your first episode with a real personal issue that grows into a storyline, which is just like real wrestling.
Debbie as a person, I understand her anger and stuff towards Ruth for what has happened. And I know that that leads to like many poor decisions, but at the same time, like her personality, just like as an actress, as someone who feels entitled, she's really difficult to work with. And she makes things much harder than they need to be later on down the line.
Yeah, and they're putting Debbie on this pedestal. He's like taking her out to places that she wants to eat, and everyone else is having to find a ride and stuff like that.
Yeah, he kind of has to, you know, because she's gonna bring in the eyes.
She's the star.
Yeah.
And what Ruth says, she's blonde.
Big finish? 1 cup of breakfast. But then, of course, you would come back and defeat me with something all-American and awesome because you're blonde.
Wow.
But that's the general idea of what happens on the first episode. We don't want to give too much away for people who haven't seen Glow. If any of this sounds interesting to you, we highly suggest it.
If you like drama, if you like wrestling, if you like the 80s aesthetic, characters who feel believable, like you kind of know that they live this kind of life, they're this kind of person, and they're not just there for background noise, they're actual people.
All the acting is pretty spot on.
Oh man, yeah.
Oh boy, yeah.
They even know how to get cheesy when
Yeah.
they need to be cheesy. Because you can't have a wrestling show and not have it be cheesy. You gotta go over the top.
What do you mean what happened? What are you, blind? Jesus!
Because we know that this show just got greenlit for a third season.
Yeah, yeah. Pretty excited for that. I don't know when, but I know it's gonna be this year. That's when it's coming out. I give it a 10 out of 10.
Aisha gives it a 10 out of 10.
I give it a 10 out of 10. I love this show so, if I can watch it 4 to 5 times, the entire thing, it's a 10 out of 10.
Check it out, y'all.